Decentralization is a myth. It doesn't exist. And before you swipe away and think I'm crazy, let me explain, because I've been in the space long enough to realize that there are always some centralized aspects, and unfortunately, it's not what you may think. So I'm going to dive into what some of these are and why I say that decentralization is a big fat lie. And I could already hear some of you saying right now, but my chain doesn't do this, or my chain, this isn't possible on, or my chain this, my chain that, because most of us are maxis and ingrained in one chain. But I'm going to show you exactly why that's likely not the case, because there are centralized aspects across the entire space, and they do affect you, I can guarantee it. So let's dive into it. Let's start off just by looking at 2025 alone. So far, we have had the biggest hack in history on Bybit. $1.5 billion. Now, we all know that centralized exchanges are, well, centralized. I mean, it's in the name. But did you also know that what happens to the fund after they're transferred off of a centralized exchange? There's still a lot of centralized aspects. Whether it's a DEX that funds are transferred to, or token that it's transferred to, the specific chain, the wallet, there are always some centralized aspects in the space. And unfortunately, this is why I just say decentralization is a myth. It doesn't really exist. And before you tune me out too, I do want to say that there may be a good reason for this, and sometimes a little bit of centralization may be needed. As much as we may hate it, because if we are truly to get to the point where we have trillions upon trillions of dollars and billions of people using this infrastructure that we believe in and we love so much, then there needs to be some security and precautions around it. And those come with some type of centralized control, unfortunately, in most cases. Let's go ahead and look at your favorite DEX, for example. Uniswap, 1inch, Jupiter, whatever it may be, there is some centralized aspect to it. Even in the most decentralized protocols, let's look at Ethereum, for example, and Uniswap. Sure, maybe Uniswap can't just go ahead and update their smart contract and swipe all your funds or anything like that. But the front end of the protocol is completely centralized. They could change that if they wanted at any time, or they could pull it down. And 99% of people in the space, including probably yourself, wouldn't have any idea how to use Uniswap backend without having the front end up and running. So what does that mean? Technically, in a way, it can be argued that that is centralized. Now, I could already hear some of you saying, no, that's not how centralization works. I get it. I see both sides of it. The problem is there's always some centralized aspects. Let's look at USDC and USDT. Did you know that those are 100% centralized tokens by a company that can freeze, swipe, burn at any given time out of your wallet? Over 80% of the stablecoin market in Web3 right now is 100% centralized. You don't truly own it. And do you think that these companies are really going to say no if some government cracks down on them and says, take it away, or freeze their funds, or do whatever is necessary? And most chains utilize either USDC or USDT. So even if you think you have the most decentralized chain in the world, if you use those, then right there, there's a centralized component in what you're doing. Also, look at the Dexes. Most of them, almost all of them, have centralized front ends. They can pull them down, they can change them, they can do whatever they want at any given time. Some of them even have upgradable smart contracts. In fact, a lot of them do. So they can go ahead and change the back-end logic to have a function do something that you're not aware of. And that's far from ideal as well. Even if some of these are controlled by a multisig or a DAO, there's still some form of centralization for emergency purposes, which again can be argued that may be necessary. For example, about 3 weeks ago, Solana found a critical bug in their infrastructure that could have allowed someone to mint, I believe, unlimited amounts of a token. So they quickly gathered their biggest validator sets, which was only a handful in some backroom channels or whatever, and they pushed through an upgrade. They received a lot of backlash for it, but honestly, sometimes stuff like that is necessary, because if it's not done quietly and quickly, a massive hack could bring down not just Solana, but much of Web3 with it. And we can't have that happen. So that's why some can argue that centralization sometimes is necessary. The same thing happened recently to MultiversX. Someone found a loophole in their virtual machine, and they were able to mint, I believe it was 150 quadrillion USDT on the chain. Thankfully, the teams were able to catch it quickly, and same thing, they organized with their validators, they quickly were able to stop the funds, stop the transactions, and fix it before it had a catastrophic impact on the entire space. And just today, Cetus protocol on Sui had another big incident where over $220 million was drained from their liquidity pool. Thankfully, Miston Labs as well as the Cetus protocol team were on top of it quick. Now, many are arguing that the route they took is not very decentralized, and I get it. From what we know as of now, it sounds like they coordinated with enough of their validators to stop a particular wallet from sending any funds. So basically, the stolen funds were frozen in place. Now, whether or not you agree with that move being taken, that's something we all have to decide for ourselves. But unfortunately, every single protocol in Web3 that I'm aware of has some form of centralized control or aspect in it where they could take these kinds of measures. And if we're going to have trillions upon trillions flowing into this space in the next few years, we need to make some major changes and we need to figure some stuff out because we're not in a good place right now. But I'm really curious to hear your thoughts. Do you think a decentralized future is really even possible? Is there some amount of acceptable centralization that we can have in the space? If so, what is it? Is it with stablecoins? Is it with the front end of dApps? Is it with upgradable smart contracts? I'm really curious to know, but I also implore you to really dive deep into some of these things and understand that your favorite protocol and chain is not nearly as decentralized as you think it is. There is something in the back end that allows the team or a group of people to take some type of emergency action, and that may be a good thing.